Video. Okay, we are live. Brilliant. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Now we have a lot of different things, but we'll try to see how much we can get through. Obviously, we're not going to get through everything, but whatever I don't get through always remains for me to then use for other purposes. Nothing gets lost. Nothing's wasted. All right, tonight's Parasha is Bo. And Bo means come. So the Rav Hirsch says a beautiful idea right at the beginning. He says, go to Paro. Vayom Hashem says to Moshe, Bo Paro, go to Paro. Why? Because I've made his heart and the hearts of all of his servants strong, etc., etc. You get the whole story and go and tell him that he's going to have this plague of the locust. And he goes and he tells him he's going to have this plague of the locust. Right? And Rashi says the following. Not Rashi, sorry. Rav Hirsch says the following. He says, Bo el Paro, come to Pharaoh. Why do we need to have him coming to Pharaoh? What's the significance of that? And not only what the significance of it is, there's an interesting thought to be had over here about the fact that we came to Pharaoh in his house to give him this warning in a specific way. If you think back, for example, to Pashas Va'era, where was the Makas Dam, the blood, Tzvadea, the frogs? Where did he get that plague? In the river. But where did he meet up with Pharaoh? At the river. He actually went to the river, met up with Pharaoh at the river, told him about the plague there by the river. Here, God says to him, no, not at the river, not anywhere else. Go to his house. And Rav Hirsch says a beautiful idea. He says, he puts it together in different categories. There's category, David Zaks is here. That's nice. David Zaks is joining us from Israel. How nice. He says that he goes through, within the entire plagues, if you look around at the different commentators, they'll always group them together and tell you they're grouped together for a specific reason, and this one indicates that one, and the first three are this, and the last three are that. Or you have either, people often put them together either in groups of 1, 2, 3, then 4, 5, 6, then 7, 8, 9. Detzach adash be'achav. Do you remember that from the Seder? Yeah, Klav's nodding away. Remember that one? Yeah? Why do we say, and Rabbi Yehuda and Osman Simon, Rabbi Yehuda used to give them symbolisms. Detzach adash be'achav. They're not so complicated. My 3-year-old comes home and he knows the 10 plagues. We didn't need this acronym. Guys, if you ever forget the 10 plagues, Detzach adash be'achav. Why do we need that? So, many people explain that the reason we say this Tetzach Hadash Be'achav is really to group them together into specific groupings. The first 3 teach you a specific thing. The next 3 teach you something else. The last 3 teach you something else. And the Makas Bechoros is above and beyond all of them. That's why I put them together. Tetzach, 3. Hadash, 3. Be'achav is the last 4. Is really... So that's one idea of it. But others say, no, you have 1, 4, and 7 have one purpose. 2, 5, and 8 have another purpose. And 3, 6, and 9 have a third purpose. Rav Hirsch seems to go with that. And Rav Hirsch says, now we're coming to the following. This is not like Tzadea, not like Dever. They were out in the open and out in the fields, as is this one going to be. But here is a very important thing. Moshe Rabbeinu comes into Pharaoh, to his house. And he says, you know what? You could sit in all this grandeur, and you can sit in your palace and sip pina colada and think to yourself, the world is hunky-dory. Everything is just fine until you open up the door. And you can think to yourself, I have this beautiful country outside, and I'm going to get the maximum out of this country. And he says, no. Even if everything remains, I'm not going to... See, the last few times, what he did was, he might have mangled things in the country. He took the water and turned it into blood. So you take all the water supply of a country and you turn it into blood. that makes things a little bit complicated. Here we say, I didn't touch the water, didn't touch the land, didn't touch the vegetation, didn't touch anything. Guess what? Just an outside influence came and whoosh, made its way in, destroyed everything. Every last bit of anything. I've not watched it, but my kids told me when they were in school, their teacher showed them this, and I think you can go online. If you go on YouTube, you can see this. Type in swarms of locusts. Try that out. See what they do. I think when you watch a swarm of locusts, when you see this swarm and they just go, put themselves on a tree, literally strip the thing bare till there's nothing left, and then just move on as an entire colony. And you watch how they come into a country and they can create such havoc. Oh, Stefan's here. Hope you're doing better. So he says, come to Pharaoh, go into his palace where he's got his grandeur and everything, and tell him that these Makkahs say, even if you have the river and the land and everything where it is, and you're sitting in your fantastic palace, your big mansion, your villa, God can wreak havoc on the entire country with you without turning anything inside out or upside down, with you sitting very, very comfortably. And that's very, very important. And he continues and he says, Iris is watching you, Michael.
Oh,
say hello.
Hi, Iris.
There we go. Yeah, Iris says hi, Rabbi. Iris here. We've seen Iris. And now you've heard Michael as well. So the idea is, and this is also in the treatment of the foreigners, this is an important thing. And we'll talk about this a little bit tonight as well. Foreigners don't always get the greatest treatment. I'm not complaining. I think it's been brilliant in this country. But not every foreigner gets like a great welcome. The Jews were foreigners and received a very, a good welcome at first, and the tide turned very, very badly. Now what's going to happen is a new set of foreigners are going to come into this land in the guise of locust. And they will come into their country and wreak havoc. And so this is the introduction to Bo. Bo is a very... Oh, hi, Ivan. This is the introduction to Parshas Bo. Bo is about... the first thing in Bo is God says, wherever you are, there's no hiding. You can be sitting in your comfortable house. You can be sitting on your couch. You can think... People think, you're home. There's something nice about going home. Do you not find there's something nice about going home? As much as it... Clive, whenever we go away, do you not feel good when you get back home?
Yeah, after a week or two.
After a week or two, you feel like, it was nice to get away, but you get home.
Had enough.
Yeah, you've had enough. Elliot, do you know what I mean? Sometimes you sleep best. Do you ever say to people you sleep best at home?
Yes.
I do sleep best at home. I don't know what it is. I used to be better, and I'm not even old, but I get to this stage where I say to myself, my bed is my bed. It's my bed, my room, everything is sort of where I want it to be, and you just lie down and you fall asleep in a very carefree way, different than almost anywhere else. Even my parents' house, I used to sleep better. It's not the same. Your home is your home. And here it is, Pharaoh's in his home, in the safety, or so-called safety of his home. And yet, he can be in tremendous trouble at the same time. That's the beginning of Parshas Bo. Okay? We move on. I'm going to mention a few more things. We're not going to speak so much about Arba and Choshech tonight, about the locust and about the darkness. And we move on to the next thing, which is a Makas Bechoros. And here Rav Hirsch again makes a very interesting comment, a very short comment, but I think this comment is a very telling thing for so many different reasons. Actually, I'll tell you about a conversation I had with my chavrusa today. If you're looking at chapter 11, verse 6. Chapter 11, verse 6. I'm just looking in with you, just one page back. Sorry, Michael. We'll be looking at page 247 or 246. 246 in the Hebrew, 247 in the English.
347.
Sorry, yes, 347. Sorry. I thought counting was one of the things I could do. I guess even that I can't do. Right. God says to Egypt, Moshe Rabbeinu says to Paro, after God tells Moshe, tell them about the plague of the firstborn, final plague, Moshe says, so says God, at around about midnight, I will come into Egypt, and every firstborn will die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, all the way down to the firstborn of the maidservants, and any animals that are firstborn, and then we continue. There will be a great cry in Egypt. Asher kamo lo niyasa, the likes of which has never been before, until now, v'chamo lo sosif, and it will never, ever be again like that. Okay? That's what the verse tells us. Rav Hirsch says 2 lines here. He says, hundreds of years, the Jews, he's trying to tell you now where what's called midah keneged midah, mem dalet hey, not nun dalet hey, midah keneged midah, a measure for a measure. There's a certain amount within God's system of punishment that's called measure for measure, where God just doesn't haphazardly punish somebody if he needs to punish them. The punishment will fit the crime. Says Rav Hirsch, there will be a great cry in Egypt. He said there have been people that have been crying in Egypt for generations, for centuries. And they are the Jews. The Jewish people have been crying for centuries. And yet, their cry has been entirely ignored. And now, says Moshe Rabbeinu, the tables are turned, and now the crying is going to be on your end. You'll be on the receiving end of the crying. That's why it says, Ata tsa'oki tzaku. Now they will cry. I found this very, very interesting. I had this conversation with my chavrusa today. He gets very excited and heated about certain things, and everybody is entitled to their opinion. I'm not fully sure yet whether I agree with him 100% or not. But he said he had a conversation with somebody. He was trying to help an older single girl. He tries to help older singles find a match. He has found for a few people he's been successful, and he's taken this on as a personal project. He doesn't really get paid for it or anything. He's doing this as a chesed to older singles. And he said there was this older girl that he knows, older. I mean, she's 29 or 30, but I guess in the frum community, that's already considered old, right? Let's keep things in perspective, okay? People are like, oh, that's not old. Okay, it depends where you come from, right? If you come from from a society that has teenage, we're not talking about Hasidim. If you come to a society that has teenage marriages at 13 and 14, you could be a grandmother already at that point. Yeah, that's not so. But it's old-ish. And he said there was a divorce in the family, and a very acrimonious divorce in the family. I'm not even sure if there was he says he's not even sure if there was actually a get ever given, but there's an acrimonious situation there, and the entire family somehow has ganged up and walked out on the father. The father, for whatever reason, has become persona non grata, in a terrible way. And for the last however many years, there's no contact. The kids have stopped having any contact with him whatsoever. And this fellow was trying to convince the young woman to say to her, listen, I'm not saying anything. I'm not telling you this might or this might not help. But he said, you know what? Your father is also part of your life. You do owe your father a certain amount. Why don't you try and make peace with him? Specifically because shalom, peace, is called a kli hamachzik bracha. It's the vessel that contains blessing in it. The Mishnah tells us God has not found a vessel as good for holding on to blessing other than peace. I like to always give the following example. Have you ever been to a coffee machine? You know, with those coffee machines that do all in one, you put in 50p and A cup comes from one side, water comes from the other side, coffee, a bit of coffee spritzing from the other side, a bit of milk, you have your coffee. Do you know the kind of machines they have? They make them less and less nowadays because you take your own cup, you decide which size you want, and the coffee's a lot more complicated. You know, in the olden days, it was just coffee was coffee. Now it's Costa coffee, and it's got this flavor and that flavor, and I like Costa and I like Starbucks. I'm not going to stop at this service station because I don't have the right coffee that I need. It's a lot more complicated. Have you ever, I don't know if this ever happened to you, but I remember as kids sometimes this happened to us. It was very frustrating because you had to ask your parents for money and your parents gave you 50p. And there was a coffee machine in school and you were very chuffed with yourself because daddy gave me 50p and I'm going to buy a coffee. I didn't buy coffee. There was either tea or hot chocolate that I used to like buying from the coffee machine. And you threw in your money and it makes the sound of the cup dropping. The cup didn't drop. Do you know which one? Do you know what I mean? When the cup didn't come through, and it's squirting everything. You go, "Oh, that's my coffee!" Yeah, Michael, do you remember that? Did that ever happen to you?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about, Michael? When the coffee cup didn't come down and the coffee just squirts all over the place. Yeah,
The machine doesn't know.
the machine doesn't know the coffee. The machine does what it does. So the machine just opens up a certain thing, thinking if when I open up the valve, normally in 10 out of 11 cases, the coffee cup will drop down, the water and everything will come in, and I'll have my coffee. Once in a while, the cup gets stuck and it doesn't drop. But the machine just goes, and it's all going. And especially when you're a little kid, you're like, oh, what am I going to... You know, when you're an adult, okay, so you'll pull the coffee cup or you'll put in another 50p. It's not the end of the world. But when you're a kid and you had to ask daddy for money and he gave you money and you only had 50p for this and you spent your 50p and it didn't come out, it was like the vending machine. Do you know when you spend money on the vending machine and it just doesn't, you're a little kid, you finally put your pound in and you chose your chocolate and you push the button and it goes, you know, the thing turns and turns and the thing's supposed to move forward. And just at the last turn it stops and your chocolate is suspended in midair. And there's been a new rule in school, anybody who bangs the machine will be fined £20 for ruining the machine. You're like, my chocolate! And you want to bang it because you want the chocolate to come out. You know it's going to cost you £20 for that chocolate. I can't bang the machine. And you're like, my chocolate! Someone's going to get to, the next guy gets 2. He goes, oh, wow, look, how lucky, 2 chocolates. And you come, that's my chocolate. No, it came down with mine. And then it turned into a whole argument. Yes, playground. These arguments continue nowadays also. They're not about chocolate bars, they're about cars or houses or other things. The stakes get higher, but the arguments stay more or less the same. So, God creates this channel of blessing. It's like the coffee that's coming out. If you have peace, you're holding the cup. You can hold on to the blessing. If your cup has a hole or your cup's not come down, it's going to go all over the place. Yeah? And so the blessing, you have nothing to hold on to the blessing with. And so he was trying to convince this young woman and to say to her, you've got to make peace with your father. Now he went to speak, she said, all right, if you go to a rabbi and the rabbi tells me that I have to make peace with my father, then I will consider it. So he went to speak to a rabbi about it, and the rabbi said, can't really force the girl to make peace with her father. And he hit the roof about it. My Chavrusa gets very, very excited. He's a very excitable guy. He hit the roof about it, started screaming at the rabbi. He gets all upset. Nothing makes you better than him. And my opinion is just as good as your opinion, and I don't understand. What's your problem, etc., etc. And then he said, but this is the real clinch. Is why I'm mentioning it. He says, that father sits at home. You know, it doesn't have to be the father. It could be the mother for the same price. This is how the story, developed. That parent is sitting at home. And that parent is crying. You imagine that father or a mother that has children in town, maybe even, and has no contact. Not invited to the simchas, to the bar mitzvahs, to the wedding, even left out on the wedding invitation. Mrs. So-and-so invites. There's no Mr. It's like he doesn't exist entirely. He said, the pain of that father, the cries of those father will not go unheeded. That's what he was trying to say to me. That's why I'm coming back to it. He said, maybe he didn't do things right. Maybe he did things wrong to his children. And, he said he wasn't talking about, in this instance, he says, he's not talking about serious abuse. When there are parents that have sadly, seriously abused their children, whether emotionally, whether physically, whether sexually, we're not talking about that. In that instance, I can understand a child says, I can't go there. And, yes, I might owe my father thank you for some of the things that he did do for me, but he inflicted such pain in me that that's above and beyond. And he was willing to agree with that one, right? Right. So in this instance, there was just an acrimonious divorce, and there was nothing to point to say Daddy was a horrible person because he did X, Y, and Z. He says that father's cries at one point or another, cries are always heard. Esav comes into the room with Yitzhak and he brings him the food and he says, Daddy, eat. And he goes, eat? I ate already. What do you mean you ate already? Who brought you food? And he said, yeah, I ate already. Who brought you food? I don't know. I guess it must have been your brother who came with trickery and took your food. By Yitzhak, Esav Zakuk Gdal Umara. It says Esav cried a bitter cry. And the Mefarshim tells us, I think the Gemara even tells us, that Jews suffer for generations from those tears that Esav cried. Esav raised his voice and he cried. He said, oh, come on, it's just Esav. No such thing. No such thing. Cries and tears are very, very powerful things. And you need to be very, very careful with them in causing somebody else pain and anguish. And therefore the Torah tells us, God tells Moshe and Moshe tells Pharaoh, there will be great cries in Egypt because people in this country have been crying for years about the lack of representation, about the fact that they have been entirely subjected and subjugated to terrible work, etc., etc. You will know what it means to cry. Okay? Now, that's the second idea. There's a beautiful idea also brought over here, third idea from Rav Hirsch. I saw it tonight. I've spent a lot of time. It's interesting when you have time to prepare certain things. It's been a busy afternoon. My son has swimming at like 6:15. So I take my Sfarim with me. My son has a swimming lesson, and I sit on the side and I'm writing this. But there's only so many Sfarim you can take with you. So very often there'll be more than one idea culled from one source. I apologize if you're upset about the fact that there's not enough sources, but I didn't think that would be an issue as long as what I'm saying hopefully is somewhat meaningful. Okay, here we go. Another idea, which I thought was a really beautiful idea. Where are we? Yeah, there it is. Well, first is this beautiful idea. He says, Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm sorry, we're taking a step back. I thought I'd finished already with that plague. I'm not finished yet with that plague. So back to the plague of the locust. Moshe Rabbeinu, this we read on Mondays and Thursdays. Moshe Rabbeinu is asked to come back. He's just told Pharaoh about the plague. And Pharaoh's servants say to Pharaoh, how long is this guy going to make us meshuggah for? Just send the people out, let them go serve their God. Don't you know that Egypt is already gone, lost, forsaken? Ship is sinking very quickly. There's lots of holes. So Pharaoh says, okay, let's see. Vayushav es Moshe es Aaron al Paro. They bring back Moses and Aaron to Pharaoh, and he says to them, go serve your God. And now comes the question, Mi v'mi ha'olchim. Who is going? Yeah? Who are you taking with you? Vayomer Moshe says, Bin oreinu v'zkenenu lech, with our children, with our elders we will go. Bivonenu v'naseinu, our sons and our daughters. Bitzonenu v'koreinu lech, with our sheep and with our cattle we will go. Ki chag Hashem lanu, because it is a festival of God. Okay? What does that mean? It's a festival of God. And why does a festival of God demand everybody to be there? Yeah? I'll give you an example. I remember this was one of those. Have you ever had an uncomfortable situation like this? You might have had this. I was going to Shalom Zacher in Vienna. And so Vienna's not like Manchester. So you pass through, it's mainly non-Jews on the street on a Friday night with a few Jews. You walk through Prestridge on a Friday night, it's mainly Jews walking around, maybe sometimes talking too loudly after the Shalom Zacher, yeah, having had maybe one too many, or having had too much cake, or too much whatever else it might have been. But it's quite a comfortable thing to go to Shalom Zacher on a Friday night. It's very nice. In Vienna, it's very, very different. So there's a Shalom Zacher. You cannot really make the Shalom Zacher in your flats because it's hard to keep the doors open in most blocks of flats. So sometimes in communal buildings. So I'm walking towards a communal building in Vienna, and there are two people next to a monument, and they're going, "Hey, oi!" Yeah, as I say, I'm like, "Yeah." Should have said yes. Should just continue walking. Yes, oi! Would you come over here and take a picture of us? It's Friday night. Yeah. So I'm like, slight problem. I said, "I'm sorry, I can't." Now, in England, I don't know if people would do this, but they're like, "Why not?" In England, they go, "All right, whatever, I'll ask somebody else." But they're like, "Why not?" Now you're stuck, right? What are you going to say? So I didn't want to say, "Well, it's Shabbos," because they're like, "Huh?" Yeah? Can't say it's Shabbos. So what did I say? I said, "It's my holiday. It's my festival." So he's like, what exactly are you saying? You know, we take lots of pictures over Christmas. Nobody's ever said, "Hey, put down the cameras. It's Easter, for goodness sake." Never heard that in my life. What's with you? So Moshe Rabbeinu is being asked, "Who are you taking?" He says, "We're taking everybody, even the cattle and the sheep." Why? It's a festival. So? What does that mean? So Rav Hirsch says the word chag comes from the word chug. And chug can mean also a circle. Ki chag Hashem lanu, that means God doesn't only want to have a holiday, but He wants us as a nation to, and again take this not literally, but to surround Him. To make us as a people, it's not just, it's a holiday. Okay, you know what, my kids go to sleep. Shavuos night, when it gets very late, my kids go to sleep. We don't say, it's a holiday, everybody stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning, let's daven, and let's all be in a bad mood the next day. No, my kids go to sleep. Most of them. Moshe may start staying up now already. But the others, it's not for them. But it says the Chag Hashem means it's not only that there's a circle, but rather something much deeper going on over here. The idea of a Chag, the idea of a Yom Tov, is creating this circle around God. God is calling us to gather around Him. He wants to see us as part celebrating together with Him. So it's not just a question of, oh, it's a holiday. So it's not just a holiday. It's a national calling together of everyone. You know, you have a family get-together. When you have a family get-together, do you ever say, like, you know, okay, it's a family get-together, just don't bring your kids? Yeah, you'd be like, that's not a family get-together. You want a family get-together, we'll come with all the family. But don't say we're having a family get-together only of the adults. Then it's not really, it's like a bit of a weird one, a bit of an oxymoron. How can you have a family get-together of only adults? Yeah? As I was saying, it's a get-together around God. We are all coming together to surround God and to be together with God. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is a chag. That's what I want. And therefore Moshe Rabbeinu is not just saying this is a holiday for us. This is a time of national coming together in a show of unity as part of God's people. Okay, now we move on to the other, to one of the other svarim. So I saw a very interesting idea, and this is part of the. I'm sorry, I keep on saying I see interesting ideas, but I find everything interesting. Maybe not. You know, if you don't agree with me, that's fine. Some of the things are more interesting. Some of the things are a little bit less interesting. You know, to me. Truth is, if I didn't find it interesting, I wouldn't say it. You know, I wouldn't come here and say, you know, I saw 2 things that bored the living daylights out of me. I think I'd like to share. Let me share them with you. Let me see how many of you I could put to sleep tonight. If I'm really good, I could actually put to sleep people on their couches in their homes also. What happened? I don't know. I watched the rabbi's Facebook. It was so boring. He told me it was going to be boring from the start. It was just so boring. I fell asleep. Yeah. We are told by Makas, by the Korban Pesach, V'kocha tochlu also. This is how you should eat it. Mosnechem chagurim. You have to have girded yourself with your belts. Na'alechem meraglechem. Shoes on your feet. Umakelchem meyetchem. And your stick in your hand. And you should eat it quickly. Pesachun Hashem. What's this idea of being ready? Why did we have to be ready like that? Have you ever had that before? I'll give you the example. I mean, sometimes you get that. El Presidente. Sometimes you get this. Have you ever had to go on a trip with somebody who's really a yeka? Somebody who's like very on time? Do you know what I'm talking about? Anybody here know what I'm talking about? Sometimes you're like rushing around. They're sitting in their coat already waiting by the door. You're still like, I just need to finish. I'm just getting this. I'm just getting that. Are you coming? It's only 10 minutes to the time we said we were going to leave. We said we're leaving at 4. It's 10 to 4. I'm sitting here in my coat already. It's getting hot.
That's my wife.
Yeah,
it's my wife.
Yeah, some people are like that. You know, everybody has a different way of keeping time. Not saying anything. No. I don't know. You never know who's listening, right? You get some people that are ready. But what's the point? God says, you know what? For the Korban Pesach, sit there, ready. All ready to go. You're wearing your shoes. You got your belt around you. You got your stick. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. Ready to go. Let's eat. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. What does that mean? What's the point of that? So he gives the following mashal. I think it was a very, very clever thing he says. He says there are two things. Let me describe to you two things. Number one, and I don't mean any offense to any taxi drivers, but number one is when you take a taxi. Okay? Now there are two things. I've spoken to many taxi drivers because I take taxi drivers to the airport often because my wife doesn't really like driving out to the airport and back. So you take a taxi out to the airport if I have to go to the airport. So take a taxi out to the airport. I try as much as possible that if I've said we're leaving to the airport at 8 o'clock, that by 8 o'clock I'm ready to go. This taxi is coming. Now sometimes they come at 5 to 8. My wife says, the taxi is here. I say, look, it's 5 to 8. I told him 8 o'clock. I don't feel bad. At that point, I don't feel bad. He's come 5 minutes early for his peace of mind. I asked him to come at 8. If he comes 5 minutes early, I need those last 5 minutes to get my act together. Yeah? But come 8 o'clock, I'd like to go out. 8:03, if push comes to shove. 8:05, last resort. But beyond that, really not. But there are people, I know taxi drivers that have told me, they have sat outside people's houses for over an hour waiting to take them to the airport. I said, you what? You pull up and they're like, oh, shoot, we forgot to pack. We forgot to pack.
Yeah, but the clock's on anyway.
I don't know if they turn on the clock. That's the other thing. Then they moan. They say, what do you mean? Set fare? Set fare to the airport.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have a set fare to the airport. That's what they do nowadays. They say, I can wait for 5 minutes, or I think they're told by their companies. You wait for 5 to 7 minutes. After that, you'd say to the people, I'm sorry, or you tell them right from the start, you have 5 minutes or 7 minutes to go. After that, I'm turning on the meter, and you will have to pay me for the waiting time, plus the set fare to the airport. And if you're not willing to take on that, I'm leaving, and you call a taxi when you're ready to go. But why in the world? I mean, I've heard of people that's literally left a taxi waiting for an hour. The guy's a tzaddik for staying there if he didn't get paid, or an idiot, right? But he's sitting there waiting for an hour for the taxi to come. Now that's wrong. Hi, Phil. That's wrong. It's just wrong to let a taxi wait for an hour while you're just getting yourself ready. If you've asked, ask for a taxi at 9 if you want to leave at 9. But don't ask a taxi at 8, let the guy wait there for an hour, and then you go when it's convenient for you. However, that's if you let the guy wait for an hour. What happens if you have your last bits and pieces to do? When the taxi rings or honks the horn outside or hoots, whatever you're going to call it, many people go, okay, just 1 second. You go upstairs, take your case from the bedroom, bring it downstairs, Go to the lounge, put on your coat, say goodbye nicely to your wife, then you pick up your thing and you go outside. Why'd you do that? Because you say to yourself, that little bit, that's, the taxi doesn't mind. No taxi will say, well, it took you 2 minutes from 8 till 8:02 till you came out. All right, you know what? I put on my coat, I brought down my suitcase, I said goodbye to my wife, I'm ready to go now. Sometimes you come late also, right? So I would rather do it that way. Those little things. But you wouldn't start packing your case when the taxi hoots outside. What do you mean now packing your case? What are you doing? Oh, now I need a shower. Before I go, I love to fly freshly showered. Okay, you shower in your own time, not on the taxi driver's time. What's it his fault? Call him to come later. That's one. That's one example. Let me give you the other example. Train. Anybody ever take a train here? Everyone taking trains. You're going down to London. What time do you show up at the train station? Anybody?
At least 10 minutes, I think.
Pardon?
Half an hour before.
Half an hour before, 10 minutes before, 15 minutes before, 20 minutes before, whatever it's going to be. But everybody, you know, let's say if the train is going, I know they have weird trains and weird times on Virgin trains. 10:06 to London. 10 o'clock, 10:20. I'd have to be 10:06 to London. But it's a 10:06 to London. Yeah? By 10 o'clock or by 10:02, everyone's either on the platform already or inside. There's always one idiot that's like running at 10 o'clock. Sir, just get into the back carriage. Don't wait till you get to the front carriage. Get in at X and walk all the way up to A. But if you're going to walk all the way outside till you get to A and then go inside, you'll miss your train. Because what happens at 10:06?
It goes.
That train goes. I don't care where you are. I don't care if you're looking at the door and about to push the button on the door. That's part of the reason, by the way, I think a minute before the train leaves, they don't let anybody through the gates anymore. Because they don't want to have a punt.
The lights go off on the button thing or whatever.
Do they go out? Yeah, you can't get in anymore.
You can't open the door now.
You can't open the door anymore. You're in, you're out, you're out. On the train, it's a whole different discussion. On the train, when you're in, you're going to make sure, you know the train is leaving at 10:06, and either I'm in that train at 10:05, or it's goodbye trip to London. And then if you find a really nice person, you'll get on the next train, if it's an off-peak and whatever. And if they're really horrible, you'll have to buy yourself another ticket. Sometimes, I mean, I don't even know if I would call that horrible. Sometimes just say, look, that's the rule. You had an advance ticket for the 10:06 train. You missed the 10:06. Now you got to take the 10:26. Yeah, but I have a ticket to London. No, that was for the 10:06. The 10:26, go and buy yourself another ticket. It could cost you now, well, it's gone up now. What was it now, £86 down to London? It keeps on going up 3 or 4%. That they reinvest in Network Rail. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Whatever. Different discussion. But come train, you're ready to go. On the train station, everybody's waiting there. Especially, by the way, it's even worse when you're in a train station with... So this is London. If you go to Manchester Piccadilly to Euston, so in Piccadilly, it's gonna be sat there in Piccadilly for about 20 minutes. You got plenty of time. What happens if you get on in Stoke-on-Trent? How long is the train in Stoke-on-Trent? A minute? 2 minutes? That's it. You got only 2 minutes. You're going to be standing by, I know whenever I take trains like that, you're going to be standing by that platform well before. Because you know, I don't have much time to play with. The train comes, is there, they look around, everybody in, off we go. Yeah? Yitzias Mitzrayim was not, says Rabbi Yerucham, Yitzias Mitzrayim was not like a taxi. It wasn't like God saying, okay, time to go. And everyone's like, okay, where's my coat? Where's my hat? Where's my shoes? Shoes are always hard to find as you want to leave. I don't know. I don't know what it is as you're leaving. It's always shoes seem to elude you. Where do they go? Seems to be some kind of stupid fairy moving your shoes around the house. But it's like a train. It's not. God wanted people to see leaving Mitzrayim like a train. You're ready. I'm standing on the platform. As soon as God says, go, we go. It's not like God says, go, everybody out of Egypt. Okay, start packing. No. I'm packed. I'm ready to go. I got my coat on. I'm wearing my hat. I'm wearing my belt. I got my stick in my hand. I'm wearing my shoes. God says, go. I say, yes, now. That's what he means. That's why God said that was part of the miracle and part of what God wanted from the Jewish people for the Korban Pesach. That the Korban Pesach signified not only, because the Korban Pesach was a tremendous thing that they did in the Korban Pesach. They took the deity of the Egyptians and slaughtered it in front of them. It was a pretty crazy thing. Imagine if today you walked out onto a street in the middle of India, pulled out a knife and started hacking away at a cow. That's not a clever thing to be doing in the center, in the streets of Delhi. My guess is in the streets of Mumbai and Delhi, you wouldn't be treated very, very nicely after that one. Right?
Finish up in jail.
Pardon?
You finish up in prison.
Would you finish up in prison for doing that?
Sure,
Really?
okay.
If you're lucky, if you're still alive, exactly, as Clive says. If you're lucky and you're still alive, you'll finish off in jail. If not, they can kill you. That's what the Jews did to the gods of the Egyptians. They took the sheep, tied it to their beds, kept it there for 4 days, and killed it and had a mass barbecue. I mean, this is the biggest mass in the Guinness Book of World Records. Mass sheep eating.
The smell of roasting meat.
The smell of roasting meat was all over Egypt. But part of that was God not only saying, I want you to do all of that. Part of it is now, and show me in your emunah, show me in your belief, you trust God so much, I trust it's coming so much, it's going to be here. Right? Do you ever stand on the platform, coming back to the train analogy? Some people on the platform, the train's supposed to come at 9. It's 5 to 9, you start looking already. Is he coming? Is he coming? Yeah. Don't worry, the train will make it there, and they'll make it there in time. Usually the train at 9, suddenly the train is there. Out of nowhere. A minute before you can see it, suddenly, there it is. But you know it's coming. Those people that have taken the train often enough, no, look, it says it's going to be here at 9 o'clock. It says on time on the board. 9 will be here. I don't need to keep on going like this. When it's 9 o'clock, it will be here. I believe 100% the train's going to be here. They didn't just put up this little thing here to go, ha, it's 9 o'clock and it didn't come. It's coming at 9 o'clock. If it's 2 minutes late, I'll say it's 2 minutes late. It says 9 o'clock. If you're a frequent rail traveler, you're not going to even bother to look around. 9 is 9. When it turns 9, the train will be here. 3 minutes to 9, the train's not here. Of course it's not here. It will be here at 9. If it was here 3 minutes to 9, it would say 3 minutes to 9 in the schedule. The mun of the Jewish people was, the train's coming at 9. God's coming to take us out. We're ready. We're standing by the station. We know it's 9 o'clock. I have everything on. I'm ready to go. God showed up. Off we go. That's the greatness of the Korban Pesach. Not only the slaughtering of all the sheep, but then knowing and saying, I believe so strongly that God is going to take us out of Egypt tonight, and it's going to be swift and everything, and I won't even have the time to pack. I'm ready. I'm standing by the door, ready to go. That was the greatness of the Jewish people. That's what they did in this, etc. Okay? Gentlemen, it's 9 o'clock. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for all of us who joined us live. Please, again, like or share this video so you can pass it on to as many people as possible. Thank you.